You think about real life. It's not that you know someone, it's you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. The old small world theory, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. How close can you get to someone? And as we get more connected in this world, the distance becomes smaller. And that distance is important. The smaller the distance, the more connected we are, the closer we are to everyone. Metcalfe's law, everything increases exponentially. We have growth, we have development, we have an economy that becomes something special. So, topography. I've been trying to get math out there for ages, and I've got lots of mathematical papers coming out with lots and lots of squiggles that everyone will look at and go, oh, that's too complex, and go away. So rather than that, we're going to also do some other things. And I'm going to explain the things about supernode pairs, and in some of the things I've studied like epidemiology, you end up with what we would call a giant network, a giant cluster. And giant clusters are those areas that are hyper-connected. And this is where people go wrong in an understanding of things like Bitcoin. They don't understand that hyperconnectivity is not centrality. It is the opposite. Centrality is that one lightning node that connects to a million other nodes, that if you DOS it, takes out everyone. Having a central group, a giant cluster, is resilient. It's the thing that in the 60s, when they tried to make DARPANET, and then ARPANET, etc., they wanted. This is the military's wet dream because you can't blow it up. You can't take it out. You can't do anything. And guess what? They didn't make it. So, we're going to have a nice, simple little video. Following in the next few weeks, months, and everything else, we're going to go much further than this. And we're going to get some, hopefully, not only explain it like I'm 5, but explain it to my grandma level videos. Ones that actually take this, some complex ones, some simple ones, some nice little animated comic ones, everything, so that you can explain Bitcoin to anyone you know. We're going to put them out there. And let every one of you take them and use them. Let you explain anything. Let you build on the ideas and teach Bitcoin to the world, because that's what we're going to do. I'm already involved with a university in Paris, a couple of them, and some other ones in Australia, and we're going to start master classes and actually try and put together some courses and start teaching people what Bitcoin really is. And along that, we're going to start with a little video and explain something about Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin, why is it resilient? So if we think the miners here, and they've got those users, we've got this network structure, and it sort of forms what is called a small world network. As we remove and connect only to those areas, we find that the miners are actually incentivized to find a giant node connection. And the users will then start connecting to miners, because users aren't as incentivized to actually keep links open. So when you send a packet, this is what happens. First hop, second hop. Bang, that's it. Every miner now has your transaction. That quick. That's why Bitcoin works. There is nothing ever where a hop to a hop to a hop. No miner is ever more than 2 hops away in Bitcoin, ever. If you're, and by miner I'm talking if you're a pool or something like that, you're a miner. Even though there's 100,000 people sitting on you, you're a mining node. Miners are incentivized to do this. Raspberry Pis are not. A Raspberry Pi will open 6 to 8, maybe sometimes 10 edges between and vertices, and basically very low level connectivity, because it takes processing power, it takes memory, it takes network bandwidth to maintain all of this. If you have to open up many, many connections, your machine grinds to a halt and becomes slower. So all those Raspberry Pis out there end up slower. They take 30 seconds, 40 seconds to transmit a transaction. And what I was showing just before, and I'll go back to the video again, is as you send that transaction, it hits all the miners. And all the miners have that transaction in 1 to 3 seconds. And it can get faster than that as well. By the time any Raspberry Pi decides that's a valid transaction, the miners have either accepted or rejected it. Because miners are incentivized to connect to miners. Every second matters to a miner. Every second. If you can mine 1 second faster, verify 1 second faster, get a block out 1 second faster, you make money. Making money makes people want to do this. We use greed for good. This is what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is not a system of cryptographic protocols. It uses them. It is an incentive system. You can't cheat the system because if you do, you lose money. That's what it's about. So let's go back. Let's go over this again. So we got resilience. We have the notion that if we start taking out these connections between our miners, what happens? Our network is still strong. Because when we have all these links here, you have to take out many nodes. If you take out a miner, that miner loses money. That miner is now incentivized to have DDoS protection. Home users aren't. The miner is incentivized to have accurate transactions. Others aren't. Now, some of the people out there say, oh, we need to make this stronger because we can't trust miners. We can trust miners because miners care about making money. They invest a lot of money in doing this. I've got some people into mining over the last 2 years. I have a friend of mine, Kelvin, who's somewhere around here. And his organization with CoinGeek, they are mining. They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make Bitcoin mining. They care that the system is resilient. If Bitcoin can be attacked, the value of Bitcoin goes down. That means their long-term investment goes down. They are not incentivized ever to allow cheating. He put out a statement the other day, and other miners are going to follow. If someone double spends, your block will be rejected. That simple. Not technical, economic. It's very simple. If you do that and you win that block, you're going to have to win the next few blocks too, because otherwise, fuck you. So if you're a 10% miner, your chance of getting a collusive double spend is 0. Because if you manage to get that block at your 10% chance, you're orphaned. That's how we trust things in Bitcoin. It's about people. It's about everyone working together. It is about incentivizing people to create more. So that's what we're going to be doing at nChain as well. We're going to start building and incentivizing systems. Not we want to go out there and do everything. We want to start everyone else building a Bitcoin world. So we're going to make it so that you guys can create tokens. My patents, my code, my whatever else, we're going to give it away to Bitcoin Cash for the most part. I say for the most part because I've got things also that have nothing to do with Bitcoin at all. So don't know how we can give those away to Bitcoin Cash because they have nothing to do with Bitcoin. So, but that's our goal. We're going to build Bitcoin Cash as an ecosystem. I don't want a fragmented system. To be strong, it's not that we are centralized, it's that we are a whole. To be strong, we have to be unified and united. This is what happened. This is what corrupted us. We became split. We became divided. We became Ethereum. We became altcoins galore. We started becoming scam coins. There's even Ponzi coin, which has luckily closed down because they did it as a joke and then people started sending them money. What a world. Now, we need to build a unified system. We don't win by making 1 million coins. The banks win with 1 million coins. The government wins with 1 million coins. You fragment your opponent, divide and conquer, and you win. We don't need them. The power is inside Bitcoin now. We will give you the Lego blocks, not to build ERC20 scam tokens that allow you to raise money to do nothing. Not so I can go, I'm going to get a big salary and think of something. Yay! Please give me $50 million. I'm really going to get a big, big idea one day. But if I don't, I'll raise another coin. No, we want to help you build real things. We want to help you peg items. We want to help you actually link stuff that can be used for computation as utility devices, end-to-end logistics. Imagine that we have every single integrated circuit on a board collapsed down into a hierarchy, basically a tree chain type idea with a single figure at the end. That figure cryptographically proves the entire system of everything in your laptop you've just bought, forever. If someone steals a RAM chip, it is no longer the same. If someone exchanges a hard drive, it is no longer the same. Imagine that we could track it. Why would you steal something when, if you steal it, everyone knows where you stole it from? Ownership that follows you globally forever. Proof of sale forever. Imagine having brand names if you're a brand manufacturer, and when there are knockoffs out there, you can actually signal which one is real or not. So I was talking to Jerry from SBI, and he said his wife would love this because she could sit there at the table and Instagram pictures of, she's got a fake bag. It's fake. It's not really Gucci. Yeah, all that can happen. Not because we punish you, we incentivize you. Bitcoin incentivizes. And it's resilient. This is the whole point. It self-heals. So we've got our configuration, link failures happen, and then we have a recovered network. Bitcoin doesn't break. Miners stay up because they're paid to stay up. We pay them. The money is inflated a little bit, less every year. Well, actually less every 4 years, but every time that happens, they get a little chunk. Every fee we pay them is a little chunk. And they know they're getting paid money. They're competing to get paid money. They work more efficiently. They work harder to try and get more money. That's why they're honest, because it's paying them to be honest. So, percolation. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. What I am going to do is I'm going to put out a whole lot of technical papers. I'm going to get other people to make them less technical because I'm really good at ELA like 58. And unfortunately, everyone wants ELA 5. So I'm learning slowly that it means getting other people involved to actually help me do these things and remove some of the squiggly lines, but explain in other ways. So we're going to do all of the above. And some of the master classes, etc., that I'm going to be teaching at places like CNAM and Da Vinci in Paris will then get propagated out, and etc., etc. Videos online, all the rest. Nodes aren't going to fail because they don't have hops. This notion that everyone puts about being able to Sybil Bitcoin, you can't. Some of my team are releasing papers. There's some in submission right at the moment. We're going to start basically putting out data, structure, etc. about the network and how it works. We're going to let other academics have fun deciding what they think the biggest flaws of Bitcoin are, because that's what you do as an academic. You never find anything good. You say, look, it's wrong. It's wrong and I'm going to fix it because, well, that's what I do as an academic. I never say anything good because, hey. All right, so initially, we form a giant node. Why? Because miners get paid. Very simple. They want to connect. The bigger level of connections they have, the more connectivity they have. Right now, most of the big miners connect to 7,000 to 8,000 other nodes. That means you need a big computer. If you spend $100 million buying ASICs, buying network connections, buying everything else, having staff, having data centers, do you care that you've got to have a big computer to sit on the edge of the network? Do you care that you've had to spend 0.01% of your money ensuring that Bitcoin's safe? Really? As a home user, you can run a node. I don't care, I'm not stopping you. What I will say is, you don't do anything. You don't validate anything. You don't ever do anything. I've had people argue with me saying, oh, but what about when Bitcoin Unlimited had their block that was very tiny little bit outside the protocol spec and just slightly too big, and it got rejected? Well, number one, that taught people a lesson. When they lost money, the miners there gave a shit. Trust me. Roger, I'm not sure if he's here or not, but I'm sure. Roger, did you care that you didn't get paid that day?
I was very upset. The CEO here heard about it a lot.
Exactly. So people sit there and go, oh no, you made a big mistake. Oh, you're ruining the network. Guess what? A block was found seconds later with all the real transactions in, and Bitcoin just kept working. Payments didn't disappear. Nothing broke. Roger didn't get paid. So the reality is that the trolls out there in core should have been happy. They should have been jumping up and down going, suck it, Roger. That's the reality. All the transactions in there got in. As a merchant, you got paid. As a merchant, your money's in your account. As a merchant, do you care that Roger didn't make money? No. Don't really care at all. Which miner makes money? I don't care. I'm a merchant. That simple. So in the past, we saw that propagate. The spy miners were incentivized, those who weren't validating fully, a little bit that day. Because the people who picked it up weren't home miners, the nodes were all other miners. The validation was first picked up by another miner who basically said, "Screw you, Roger, I'm taking this block instead." The spy miners kept mining on Roger's block for a while because they didn't validate it. They lost 28 to 35 seconds. 28 to 35 seconds in Bitcoin is significant. It is more than your profit margin. That meant people changed behavior. That's how Bitcoin works. When Kelvin and Armory's going to do some things with ABC and whatever else, start looking at this guy's double spent, obviously, because transaction, same address, piss easy to detect. Windows XT does it already, our node can do it, all sorts of fun things. Very simple. 2 seconds later you go, this guy cheated. What do? Well, we're going to put both these transactions in a block. You just go, bugger you, we're not going to include your transaction. That simple. You want to cheat, we drop your transaction. Or we make you wait. If you buy a coffee, you can get it half an hour later. If it clears. Meanwhile, sit in the corner over there, because if you don't, that video camera there, we're going to send the feed with signed cryptographic proof to your local policeman. That simple. So, I don't know about you, but I'm incentivized not to spend much money trying to steal a free coffee for $5. I mean, I like my coffee, but I don't like it that much. So, we form a single giant component. Now, if we remove things in normal networks, what happens is we end up fractioning them. This is what everyone thinks Bitcoin does. They think, haha, I can attack something. No, this is what Lightning does. Lightning is densely connected at single points. It's like the internet. It's the thing that the US military got wrong. Well, do the military ever get things wrong? Yes, no? Yeah. Seems to be that they're very good at this sort of stuff. They understand command and control. So we're going to build a highly decentralized network that has command structure built in. Yay, DARPA. So what happens? Normal networks, you start splitting them up, it breaks into fragments. There's this thing called a percolation threshold. If the percolation threshold is there, then things actually reform. So, right at the moment in Bitcoin, if you want to actually Sybil the network and you want to get a 1% benefit, anyone guess how many Sybils you need to put in the network? With 10 to 11,000 BTC nodes or 1,000 and whatever Bitcoin Cash. Ideas? No. Approximately 100 million. And you can argue that with me. I'll show you the mathematics and I'll show you the data later. They're coming out. Approximately 100 million. If you get 10,000 machines in BTC connected to a lot of machines, things are different. Even the few big miners with 10,000 connections, the few non-miners who are highly connected, like Coinbase, when they have 1,000 plus connections to other machines, you have to take down a lot. You have to take down all of those machines to break anything on Bitcoin. So if you go and you take out China, and you take out Russia, and you get rid of Canada, and you get rid of America, and I don't know, pick a continent, someone, and we blow all them up and nuke them, we still have Bitcoin. That's what the internet was supposed to do. That's how Bitcoin works. we blow up hubs and things. Yes, it slows down. It's a real bugger because, well, we've just taken out 70% of the mining hash and we've only got 30% left, and now it's taking me much, much longer, and I'm sitting there waiting, and, well, my transaction's still 0 conf in seconds, but I don't get a block for ages, but that readjusts. It might take now, say, 5 or 6 weeks for it to readjust, but less on Bitcoin Cash, of course, and everything just starts working again. So what we really have here is a network that people need to start understanding. I've been mentioning things like SEIR. SEIR is how we model things in epidemiology. And yes, one of my past things was statistics, and that involved medical sort of statistics and things like that. So yes, I've been involved in papers involving college kids getting drunk, but hey, welcome to the world. That's what you do in statistics. Not only college kids getting drunk, though. What we have, and we're going to put out some videos, nice simple animated ones, but also we're going to have ones where we have 3D and all the rest. So some of those are being done at the moment, and I'm going to start releasing them over the next few weeks. Much more coming before Seoul, where I get to stand up there with core people and see if they run away. And we're going to get everyone to start understanding why Bitcoin is so important. It is many things. You heard from Clemens, who, well, I've released a few papers to do with Turing completeness, explaining that now Bitcoin is a decider or a total Turing machine. That means it's actually more powerful than people think. It is a predicate logic system. What everyone forgets is it's not just a 0 or a 1. You have a true, you have a false. But you're also a true transaction when you end with a bigger number. I don't need to end with a 0 or a 1. I can end with a 0 or a 9,786. You can do things with those values. We have to start rethinking Bitcoin. We have to start the idea of building upon Bitcoin. Everyone competing upon Bitcoin. When you go to something like an Apple application, you're running a web browser. That's all 99% of apps out there in the App Store are. They are a glorified web browser. It's a walled garden web browser. And they get huge amounts of money to sell you advertising. With Bitcoin, we have something that now, instead of everyone having to have what we expect to be a difficult, and no offense, I use Electron Cash, but my grandmother ain't using Electron Cash. We need to make simple apps that sit and use the Bitcoin ledger. Then we can have CryptoKitties if we want. We can have gaming if we want. We can have all the spam that they don't want in BTC because it adds volume. Volume, velocity. Velocity of money is where value comes in. In 2009, there was this chancellor guy in Britain. And if you read past the headline, the bit back on page 57, I think it was, well, probably wrong on that one, don't quote me. If you look at the second part of the article, the real crux wasn't the headline. The Chancellor, in his pushing on the string theory, had been pumping money to banks. They changed the regulations. They made it difficult. They wanted the banks to flood money out because that's what quantitative easing is, except they didn't. So the Chancellor in Britain there came up with a wonderful thing where he said to the press, if the banks don't do what we tell them, we're going to nationalize them. Did anyone actually take the time to read the article? Nationalizing a bank. That was their answer. You do as we say, or we take you over. Don't believe me? Read the article. It's history. It's there. If governments can force banks to do things, if they can force companies to do things, they control them. It becomes slowly a totalitarian world. Not because you have the guns, which they do, because they can force you to change. They can make you do things. When companies can't run themselves without a government telling them what to do, they're part of the government. That's the difference. When we can set up something like Open Bazaar, and we can set up anything else that's distributed, and you can't take it down, that's different. When we can set up money that we can tokenize to anything, that's different. When we can have logistics tracking built into Bitcoin, different. When we have one system that does everything people are trying to do, different. And I'm going to pick on some guys I saw at Token 2049 because I keep telling the story because it's funny. There were people raising a sort of new token ICO because they wanted to make a coin for the sex industry. Now, basically, I think I insulted them because I renamed it Hooker Coin. And my point there, as I've been telling people, if you have Hooker Coin, but it's more private than Bitcoin, and you have to go to an exchange and buy Hooker Coin, hi honey, I've just bought and invested in Hooker Coin. How much do you have left? Used it. Or, hey, will you take 10 Hooker Coin for your services? No, what the fuck would I want to buy, take a coin that I can only buy other hookers with? I mean, it might be an interesting scenario. I mean, this is why we need to unify. We don't want Hooker Coin. We want money. One money. One money that does everything. Not controlled money, not the government money, money that is fixed, that doesn't change. One of the reasons that the gold exchange standard didn't work and why they don't like pegged money and why they don't tell you is because it's honest. Governments can actually raise bonds against Bitcoin. Governments could run a Keynesian system against Bitcoin. They can loan money. Nothing stops you loaning money because you have Bitcoin. That simple. They did it with a gold standard. It's not going to be fixed. The difference is, when the gold standard started, they had a peg of initially it was 95 cents. Then by 100 years ago, it was 25 cents in the dollar of the actual gold. And when Nixon ended it in 71, anyone know how much of the actual gold was in the vaults? 5%. Yay! That's gold standard because you can bullshit and lie. Bitcoin, you don't get to. Everyone can check your reserves. So when the politician goes up and goes, state of the nation, we're going really well, guys. Don't worry about this. It's only your grandkiddies that are going to be screwed. You know they're lying. And if politicians, you know they're lying, they're incentivized not to. Bitcoin is an incentive scheme. Everyone say that? Bitcoin is an incentive scheme. That's the key. That's why it works. That's why people don't do stupid things. What we want and what nChain wants from all this, and that's Jimmy over there, we're going to help you build. So, thank you.
All right. Whew.
Last bit. The power of Bitcoin is within Bitcoin. The power to make it work is in us.
All right. Woo! Okay. Thank you, Craig. Do we have any questions worthy of the speaker?
Great, thank you for the talk, Craig. You said that miners would orphan blocks with fraudulent double spends in the context of unconfirmed transactions.
Yes.
I agree that would be nice, but my question is, are you saying that miners would do that now, or that we can make that possible in the future by making changes? And two, in such a case, how do the miners know for sure which of the two transactions is a legitimate one?
I don't give a shit. Basically, in 2 to 3 seconds, you know. You can see those transactions, or you know most of the nodes have them. So otherwise, if it takes longer, then you can still reject the later block. If someone on a small 5% pool wins something that no one's ever seen before, then screw it, we're not accepting your block. That's obviously later.
And are you saying that happens right now, or that could happen?
That is going to be happening right now. So that's what Kelvin announced. That's what some other groups are going to do. And basically, fine, you want to double spend, we're going to punish you type thing. I mean,
Yeah, I know, I think it's a great thing to happen. I just didn't know it was implemented on the network.
Any other questions? Coming up behind you. The mic.
so do we want to make it better? Yes. Do we want to get more miners saying they'll do this? Even better. If 99% of miners come out and say, this is what we're doing, that last 1% is going to follow. Keynesian beauty contest.
I have a question about the idea of limited supply of coin, 21 million of Bitcoin. Where did it come from? Where's the ideas come from? And why the supply curve and limited supply is important?
Well, where do ideas come from? That's always an interesting question. Probably, for a lot of people, it's probably things like alcohol. Other ones have illicit drugs. I don't do illicit drugs myself, but there's always alcohol. Alcohol and coffee always gets ideas. Sometimes they're really bad ideas. If it's alcohol, it's really bad ideas if there's enough of it. But coffee helps. Why would someone want to put a cap? Well, if you have a cap, then you have an honest way of tracking and accounting something. One of the problems that government have at the moment is if you have a certain amount of money, people know what's happening. The problem in Greece was the euro is all the same, so they can't just keep printing more. They can keep loaning money, and they can keep getting more and more interest to pay every year until they basically go into a debt spiral. But everyone can see that, and you can't cheat there. Whereas you can push it off a bit further and do something like Zimbabwe did and just make bigger and bigger money until you stop making money. But if you have a cap, then you actually, over time, can start looking at the value. And money doesn't disappear from countries the way everyone says. It moves between. So when you have money go over to China, or money go over to Britain, or whatever else, it flows in and out of one economy. But money is not what everyone tells you it is. It is liquefied trust. It is a call on future goods and services. And the amount of goods and services are what really dictates how much is in the world. If we produce more, the value of your money actually goes up. If we double production, it's going to cost you less to buy something. If we are more efficient, less to buy something. If we stop making something, it becomes more. That's the bit no one wants to talk about because, well, the reality is money will flow in and out of countries around the world, and if governments are doing stupid things, they will lose money. And you can inflate that with fiat, and you can push it off, because one of the problems with our current democratic system where we allow them to play with the economy is, well, if you can fiddle a little bit, you can change the money, you can push it out. And politicians don't care 20 years. I mean, it's the old Keynesian bit. In the long term, we're all dead, except we're not. 20 years, when I started studying and everything like that in uni more than 20 years ago now, I cared about my future. I cared about my kids' future. I care that our boy is in college and doing stuff, and I care. That's long-term planning. As a politician, you care about the next election. The end. If you can push it out 4 years, someone else's problem. I've solved it. Totally fixed. Next guy. So, that's why.
Do we have a final question for the speaker today? Make it good.
Hi, Craig. We had a discussion. You mentioned it would be good if none of these other coins existed. With the airdropping that are happening, what do you think is a better thing to do? To forget about them, not touch them, and just not do anything and not give it any velocity by sending it or spending it in any way, or just just dump it?
Well, we're going to start announcing things. There's some big things being announced at CoinGeek, and we're going to start releasing papers teaching people how to do things, and we're going to start doing a whole lot of stuff which might affect stuff. And I can't tell you any of that because Jimmy over there will bitch slap me. That's what he does. But at the end of the day, if you support something, then you have to support it. If you want to just throw your money at an everything type thing, then maybe you win, maybe you won't. Your choice. I'm going to put it quite simply. Bitcoin is all I work on. Bitcoin is my life. My next 10, 20, 30 years will be involved in Bitcoin. In that time, I want to see Bitcoin grow. I have one goal, and very simple goal. I want 5 billion people using Bitcoin daily. No other coin will do that. Everything else has decided that they don't want to be a small world graph. They want to add extra hops. Lightning is a mesh. Litecoin has tried to push everything out to users and made a mess. Monero has incentivized home users and other things and made a mess. Ethereum has decided not to be money at all, which is a mess. And we can do everything every one of them can do, and more. And I don't want to do it all. Basically, I've got enough work on my plate. I want to get all of you guys, and everyone else I can find, to build everything for us. I want everyone here to basically create something that is cool, that people go, fuck, that is good. Then, everyone wins. So, I can tell you, buy Bitcoin, whatever else, but I'm not. I'm going to say, I'm going to compete. I'm going to out-compete everyone. And I'm going to work with people and work with companies and work with groups, and we're starting to invest and we're starting to do everything, not because I want to see a big divided community like we ended up with, because we are Bitcoin Cash, and we are united.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Right. One more time. Yep. Thank you. Okie dokie. Another presentation coming up now. There's Rob.